The country was crumbling. Years of war had ravaged its once fertile lands, leaving behind a desolate wasteland of bombed-out cities and scorched earth. The people were starving. Resources were dwindling. The dictator, a man of ruthless ambition and iron will, clung to power with a desperate grip. His armies, once invincible, were now shadows of their former might, pushed back on all fronts by a determined rebel alliance. The dictator's regime was crumbling faster than the ancient palaces that dotted his war-torn nation. The dictator's grip on power was not one to be easily relinquished. He yearned for a way to turn back the clock, to undo the mistakes that had brought his nation to its knees. Little did he know his salvation, or rather his undoing, was being meticulously crafted in a hidden laboratory deep beneath the earth. Hidden away from the despair and destruction, a lone scientist toiled tirelessly in a dimly lit laboratory. Professor Elias Thorne, a man of unparalleled intellect and quiet resilience, had been forcefully conscripted into the dictator's service. His task to build a machine capable of bending the very fabric of time. The weight of the nation's fate rested heavily upon his weary shoulders. Days blurred into nights as Professor Thorne worked relentlessly, fueled by meager rations and the dictator's menacing threats. His once pristine laboratory was now a testament to his tireless efforts, cluttered with wires, tools, and complex equations scrawled across every available surface. Sleep became a luxury he could ill afford, a fleeting respite stolen in stolen moments. Between calculations and experiments, the air in the laboratory was thick with the smell of ozone and desperation. Yet, amidst the chaos and exhaustion, Professor Thorne found a strange solace in his work, a glimmer of hope in the face of despair. For he knew that if he succeeded, he would not only be fulfilling the dictator's wish, but also unlocking a secret that had eluded humanity for centuries. A soft hum resonated through the laboratory, growing steadily in intensity until it filled the air with an almost deafening drone. The air crackled with energy, casting eerie shadows that danced and swirled across the walls. In the center of it all stood the time machine, a marvel of engineering cobbled together from scavenged parts and sheer determination. It was a chaotic symphony of metal and wires, a testament to Professor Thorne's genius and the desperation of a dying nation. As Professor Thorne made the final adjustments, a wave of exhaustion washed over him. He'd poured every ounce of his being into this machine, sacrificing his health and sanity in the process. But it was done. The dictator would have his wish. Whether it would lead to salvation or further destruction, only time would tell. Section 4. Flight into the unknown. The ground shook with the fury of 1,000 explosions as the rebel forces finally breached the dictator's last stronghold. Panic erupted through the bunker, soldiers scrambling for a way out as the enemy closed in. Deep beneath the chaos, the dictator, his face contorted with a mixture of fear and determination, burst into Professor Thorne's laboratory. Clutching a leather-bound journal and a satchel filled with precious artifacts, he barked a hasty order at the exhausted scientist. Without a word, Professor Thorne activated the time machine. The air shimmered and distorted, and for a fleeting moment, the dictator saw a glimpse of his own terrified reflection in the swirling vortex of time. Then, with a deafening crack, he was gone, vanished into the annals of history. Moments later, the rebels stormed the laboratory, finding only Professor Thorne amidst the remnants of the dictator's escape. The scientist collapsed, his body finally succumbing to the relentless exhaustion that had fueled his every waking moment for countless days. As darkness enveloped him, Professor Thorne couldn't help but wonder what fate awaited the dictator in the vast expanse of time. Section 5. Whispers of the past. Decades later, in a quiet corner of the world untouched by the ravages of war, a humble farmer named Thomas tilled his land. The sun beat down on his back as he worked, his weathered hands moving with the practiced ease of a lifetime spent in communion with the earth. A sudden glint of metal caught his eye. Curious, he put down his tools and walked towards the edge of his field, where a small grove of trees stood sentinel against the passage of time. There, nestled amongst the trees, lay the remnants of something strange and wonderful. Twisted metal, shards of what looked like thick glass, and unfamiliar symbols etched into smooth black plastic. It was unlike anything Thomas had ever seen. Section 6. A Foundling's Fate. Cautiously, Thomas picked his way through the wreckage, his calloused fingers tracing the cold, unyielding metal. A soft whimper reached his ears. It was a sound so out of place in the peaceful tranquility of his field that for a moment he thought his ears were playing tricks on him. The whimpering grew louder, leading him to a small clearing in the center of the wreckage. There, amidst the twisted metal and shattered glass, lay a sight that would forever alter the course of his simple life. A baby boy, no more than a few months old, lay swaddled in what looked like raw cotton, his tiny fists clenched tight against the unfamiliar world. He was alone, abandoned, yet there was an aura of innocence about him, a certain purity that transcended the strangeness of his arrival. Thomas knelt down, his heart filled with a wave of compassion. Gently he picked up the child, cradling him close to his chest. The boy's cries subsided, replaced by a soft gurgle as his bright eyes met Thomas's gaze. In that moment, a silent promise was made, a promise to protect this child, this unexpected gift from the cosmos, and to raise him as his own. The dictator, stripped of his power and reduced to his most vulnerable state, was no more. In his place, a new story was about to unfold, a story of hope, redemption, and the enduring power of second chances.